be honest, we live in one of the worst possible timelines, and if I'm honest, we need all the hope that we can get. And one of the big bright lights at the moment is what could be described as the whole Zoro Mandani phenomenon. Now, this week, we find out if New York will elect its first ever socialist mayor. But there's been a deluge of smears against Mamdani, and he's shown how politicians who are taking on the elites can fight back. Andrew Cuomo, a serial sexual harasser and Democratic Party political aristocracy, has shown that anti-Muslim bile is not simply the preserve of the Republicans. Let's just listen back again to Cuomo talking to the conservative radio host Sid Rosenberg.
Any given morning, there's a crisis. And people's lives are at stake. God forbid another 9/11. Can you imagine Mamdani in the seat?
And I could. He'd be cheering.
Well, it's another problem. But can you imagine that?
Wow, Cuomo really is a little scumbag, isn't he? These racist attacks have been never-ending. Ellie Conahan, Trump's former US Deputy Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism, posted images of 9/11 with the caption, "Never forget, early voting begins today. Vote Andrew Cuomo and save our city." Now, the meaning of that, I suppose, is open to interpretation because as the comedian Matt Lee posted, "I know you meant this to be racist against Mamdani, but this mostly reads like vote Cuomo or else we'll do another 9/11. He's a funny guy. Larry Elder, a conservative political commentator, posted an image of a skyscraper inscribed with NY City and a red plane featuring a hammer and a sickle with Mamdani's name on it about to collide with it. Again, just openly, wantonly Islamophobic bile. Another viral right-wing post suggested that Sydney Sweeney, the actor, would be forced to wear the burqa at New York Fashion Week if Mamdani became mayor of New York. As others have pointed out, given how his wife chooses to dress, this doesn't actually make any sense at all. Indeed, right-wing claims that Zoro Mandani is going to impose Sharia law on New York have slightly collided with reality, such as Mamdani rallying supporters at a New York gay bar.
Are we ready to beat Andrew Cuomo? Are we ready to win a city we can afford? Are we ready to make history? Let's go out there and do it. Thank you, my friends.
Yet right-wing tweeters have, for some reason, shared this appearance at a gay bar, a queer bar, whilst claiming falsely that Mamdani is promoting Sharia law and all the rest of it, calling him a fraud duping his supporters. There is, of course, zero factual basis for any of this. It's just a brazen Islamophobic attacks on a Muslim candidate. What must frustrate these sorts of people is that there have been other Western Muslim leaders who have a much better track record at standing up for LGBTQ people and their rights than many self-described Christians, for example. Take Sadiq Khan, for example, the mayor of London, as well as Humza Yousaf, the former First Minister of Scotland. Both of those, from different political traditions from Mamdani in different respects, have stood up for LGBTQ rights over and over again, whilst there has been an onslaught against LGBTQ rights from the right, including from many self-described Christians. Now, in the UK, the Green Party is led by a gay Jewish man, Zach Polanski, with two deputy leaders, Mothin Ali, a working-class Muslim man, and Rachel Millard, a white woman from a Christian background. And you can see the left, in its broadest sense, offering hope for the future, that with the right increasingly doubling down on ethno-nationalism, on open racism, on dividing communities, the left is trying to build coalitions which, for example, bring LGBTQ people together with Muslims. And they hate it. They hate that. Equally, we've seen lots of LGBTQ people using their platforms to speak out against Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people, for example. Hello. Now, Eric Adams, the current mayor of New York, has declared New York can't be Europe in response to Mamdani's campaign. Well, no idea what he means by that in practice, given most Western European nations have, for example, lower levels of poverty and lower levels of violence than the US, but it's giving dog whistle, isn't it? Mamdani gave a moving speech about these Islamophobic attacks.
Yesterday, Andrew Cuomo laughed and agreed when a radio host said that I would cheer another 9/11. Yesterday, Eric Adams said that we can't let our city become Europe. He compared me to violent extremists. And he lied again and again when he said that our movement seeks to burn churches and destroy communities. The day before that, Curtis Sliwa slandered me from the debate stage when he claimed that I support global jihad. And every day, Super PAC ads imply that I am a terrorist or mock the way I eat. Push polls that ask New Yorkers questions like whether they support invented proposals to make halal food mandatory. Or political cartoons that represent my candidacy as an airplane hurtling towards the World Trade Center. But I do not want to use this moment to speak to them any further. I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab. I want to speak to the Muslim who works for our city. Whether they teach in our schools or walk the beat for the NYPD. New Yorkers who all make daily sacrifices for the city they call home, only to see their leaders spit in their face. I want to speak to every child who grows up here, marked as the other, who is randomly selected in a way that never quite feels random, who feels that they carry a stain that can never be cleaned.
This is so important. Anti-Muslim hatred, Islamophobia, is mainstream, it's acceptable, it's respectable in the West. Muslims have become the focus of the far right, and we see, of course, the media across Europe constantly, and the United States constantly attacking Muslims. Having a prominent Muslim politician who's willing to face down Islamophobia is so important right now. Now, indeed, contrary to the smears, Mamdani's building links across communities. For example, attracting the support of Jewish leaders in Williamsburg as he pledges to fight the scourge of anti-Semitism. It's notable that those accusing Mamdani baselessly of racism are the ones who are themselves actually being racist, openly racist against Muslims, whilst Mamdani's putting in the work to fight racism in all its forms, including anti-Semitism. But of course, for these racist ghouls, anti-Semitism has to be redefined into opposing Israel's genocidal mayhem, which is not anti-Semitism in the slightest, obviously. Meanwhile, Democratic leaders keep throwing Mamdani under the bus. Here's Chuck Schumer, the senior US senator from New York and the leader of the Senate Democratic Caucus.
Mamdani, are you going to vote for him?
Look, the bottom line is very simple. I have a good relationship with him, and we're continuing to talk.
Well, the vote is on Tuesday. What are you going to do?
Wow, pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Here's Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic House Minority Leader as well.
Do you see Mamdani as the future of the Democratic Party?
No, I think the future of the Democratic Party is going to fall, as far as we're concerned, relative to the House Democratic Caucus and members who are doing a great work all across the country as it relates to our need to both take back control of the House, but in doing so, make sure that we're communicating to the American people like we understand you deserve better than the country that you have received.
Here's the thing, right? These soulless corporate Democrats who are devoid of any vision for the country they seek to lead have allowed Donald Trump to just walk all over US democracy, barely putting up any sort of fight, failing to inspire a mass movement of opposition. The energy is coming from the US left, which you can see from how the likes of Bernie Sanders and AOC are mobilizing vast numbers of Americans across the United States. Indeed, you can see from voter registration numbers how Mamdani is rejuvenating the Democrats. I'll come on to the polling and the numbers of those who've already voted shortly. But in the race, while just 13,000 new Republican voters have registered, 146,000 new Democratic voters have registered. That speaks to a massive tidal wave of enthusiasm. And here's Mamdani's response to Jeffries.
Hakeem Jeffries was asked this morning if you're the future of the Democratic Party. He said no.
Good to know.
Do you have a response?
No, I'm focused on the next 2 days.
Do you think you're the future of the Democratic Party?
I don't dare predict the future. That's why I'm out here canvassing to deal with my anxiety to get through the tape of the future of 9 p.m. on Tuesday.
You've got to admit, the guy is a class act. And what about serial loser Hillary Clinton, who was a New York senator? Listen to this.
If you had a vote in this city, would you vote for Zoro Mandani?
You know what? I don't vote in this city. I'm not involved in it. I have not, been at all even asked to be involved in it, and I have not chosen to be involved in it.
Well, she clearly has total contempt for Mamdani. She clearly despises his politics. Mamdani, who, unlike her in her failed campaigns for the US president, has actually inspired people, is inspiring people. But this other contribution from Clinton is also revealing about the mentality of the Democratic establishment.
The emerging generation of Democrats do not feel that instinctive attachment or empathy or understanding for Israel that you voiced on the immediate days after October 7th. Is that how you see it?
Jonathan, I don't see it that way. I see it slightly differently because I think it's a generational issue more than a political issue. I think young people, including young Jewish Americans, don't see it that way. We have done a miserable job teaching young people history. I had so many conversations, and frankly, they often started as confrontations with students, not just at Columbia, but elsewhere. Where were they getting their information? They were getting it from social media. They were getting it most particularly from TikTok, which is governed by an algorithm until at least up till now, still largely manipulated by the Chinese Communist Party. So when you were having conversations with young people, what they were seeing, and because much of the information they get, remember, more than 50% of Americans, predominantly a much bigger percentage among young people, get their news from social media. All those people chanting from the river to the sea, when you ask them what river, what sea, they had no idea. I mean, this is a serious problem that goes far beyond the terrible, in my view, misinterpretation and unfairness that we saw post October 7th.
The state of this, she just does not get or understand at all how people have rationally arrived at the conclusion that Israel is committing sickening war crimes and indeed genocide. The truth actually is, you can get the unfiltered truth about Israel's genocide from social media because mainstream outlets are failing to show the truth. I don't know, Hillary, do you really think the Chinese Communist Party was forcing Israeli soldiers to post their war crimes on TikTok? Did genocide scholars arrive at a consensus that Israel is committing genocide because they were, brainwashed by the TikTok algorithm, and they just don't know as much, these people who dedicate their whole lives to studying genocide as much as a two-time failed presidential candidate? Who can say? She really is just dreadful, awful. I mean, it's just, she likes to present herself as this kind of, people have tried to make her this yes queen, Hillary Clinton, that kind of centrist demographic who lapped her up despite her serial failures. And yet she's someone who, in the midst of one of the worst crimes of our age, when a Western armed state has incinerated tens of thousands of children, she's the one suggesting that the people who are ignorant and ill-informed are the people who have looked at the absolutely overwhelming evidence, including the genocidal statements of Israeli leaders. And they're the ones who are wrong, and she's the one who knows what's real. I mean, the way she says people are ignorant about the history. I mean, she's just a pro-Israel propagandist, clearly, who has airbrushed the oppression that the Palestinians have suffered for generations in favor of the whitewashing of Israeli crimes. Well, anyway, she will just go down in history as a failed presidential candidate. So what more to say? Now, it's important to bring this up because there's no question Palestine was a major reason that Mamdani secured the nomination for the Democratic mayoral candidacy. The genocide has educated people, made them see the world differently, made them join the dots about other injustices. That's why Mamdani managed partly to surge. Not just that, obviously. It's about the failure of an economic system, neoliberalism. But we will see the political consequences of Israel's genocide unfold across the Western world for the years ahead. And you will see the political impact of it. And that is a really important point. But, how are the smears doing against Mamdani? The polling average has him 14 points ahead. In one poll, Mamdani's 25 points ahead of Cuomo, getting 50% of the vote. Now, we'll see if that actually pans out in practice. But we do know that there has been record turnout. There's been a bigger turnout for early voting than there's ever been in the history of New York, and that includes presidential races. That's really important because you would expect, well, mayoral races, you know, when you don't have national elections going on, their turnout should be much lower. It's a stunning fact that this is record early voting. A higher number of younger Americans have already turned out than the total who'd voted by the end of the mayoral race in 2021. That includes people who voted on the day itself, which is when you'd expect the bulk to vote. And of course, it's younger people where Mamdani has a particular edge. What we can see here is the future, that if you have candidates who actually offer hope, who offer a vision in this time of crisis, you can beat the otherwise ascendant far right. The victory of fascism in the West is not inevitable, but it's not pro-corporate centrism that offers the answers. It's the left, and Mamdani shows that. Please like and subscribe. Do share the video. Help us take on the pro-corporate, pro-genocide media at patreon.com/OwnJose84. You make everything we do possible. I can keep saying I'm working my book, The Fall of the West. So we'll do far more video stuff when I finally finish that. But yeah, great to see you guys. I'll see you in a bit.